Well, hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Jim and Rob Overanalyze Movies, the live video podcast for people who love to talk about movies as much as they love watching them. And today, we are going to be talking about the 2023 Oscar nominations. That's right, everybody. Woo! All right, enough of that nonsense. That's right, everybody. We are actually recording this live to tape, so you'll see a couple of fudges, a couple of stumbles. This is our initial, I guess, let's call it our Oscar nominations reaction video. Of course, we're recording it the night the nominations came out. They came out live this morning, so you might hear a few hot takes. But of course, it's kind of hard to do an analysis, kind of hard to have your hot takes if you got no one to help set up those hot takes, which means it's time to welcome the man, the myth, the legend, my co-host with the most, Mr. Jim Chaboyko. How you doing, my friend?
Great. Well, kind of great. I was disappointed a little bit this morning, but pretty good overall.
I'm good. I'm good, man. Got new tunes. We got new tunes.
Yeah, a lot of music these days.
I have. Yeah, and I've been sitting on this stuff for a while, and it's like, I got to break it out. You know?
Oh, yeah.
I got to break it out. It's nice to start a show with some energy, right?
Yeah. That's why all talk shows have bands.
Exactly.
Yeah. Little shot of adrenaline.
Yeah. So on that note, let's get started right away. Why don't you, Jim, give us your overall impressions. Well, it's not.
Sure.
It's a news story. You can't be spoiler free, but just your general overall impressions.
Yeah. Was I impressed by the list of nominations? Nope. Just kidding. That's one hint.
I think that's foreshadowing.
Yes. One, I won't say which, but one of my favorite movies of the year was not just pretty much ignored, completely ignored. Yay.
I'm a little late on that. But...
No, it's good. But there was a lot of fresh faces. There were a lot of fresh faces in the nominations, which was nice. And a lot of diversity, and they even awarded some to the Irish. I'm kidding, but there was some interesting. So there's always something interesting, but yeah, there was a few. A lot of the new faces, I think, was sort of the big headline there for the morning,
Gotcha.
Especially the acting nominations. So
yeah, Jim. I'm going to spill this out like we didn't discuss it beforehand and even maybe do a bit of rehearsal. But what any people who regularly follow the channel has seen some of our other live shows on the Golden Globes of the Oscars, or just general comments I've made, is I think these things are ridiculous. And they're big marketing efforts. I mean, they're still worthy of discussion because they are such a big, important piece of pop culture. And it is kind of like you and I haven't released it yet, but you and I have done our top 10 list of 2022. This is like Hollywood's.
Yeah.
And
literally now that they've let 10 movies in for Best Picture.
Yeah. And you think about the international films, the documentaries, there are films that you and I haven't seen, and we would be avid film goers. So for the general public to be, exposed to something where it's like, I know this isn't normally what you'd watch, but you might want to try a couple of these things. Mm-hmm. That's not a terrible thing. No. That said, still ridiculous. And it's not just the ridiculousness that the Oscars, that the Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences takes itself, the seriousness in which it takes itself, but also the people around it, including us. There is, Dan Murrell, I have praised him on this show before. I've also kind of went, what the hell? More than once, but I respect him as a reviewer. I definitely respect him as a analyst. That said, Jim, I was watching his take on the Oscars, and I'll play the clip.
I think that we're all going to be surprised, or at least not know what name is going to be read when that envelope is open at the end of the night. And then, of course, we're all just going to be praying that the right movie is named at the end of the night. That's right. I am still going to talk about the La La Land Moonlight thing. I will always talk about the La La Land Moonlight thing because that is one of the craziest things to ever happen. So let's talk about.
So of course, Jim. He's referring, of course, to this incident. What was it? 2 years ago, 3 years ago, 4 years ago, maybe. La La Land was inadvertently an octogenarian, a wealthy octogenarian white male went up and got given the wrong envelope, or opened the wrong envelope, or misread the wrong envelope. Anyway, and they inadvertently announced that La La Land had won, and when Moonlight had. That's and that's what he's referring to. Of course, this is now in a world, Jim, where this has happened. So, as much as I respect Mr. Murrell, to say this is the crazy thing that happened when just last year that happened.
Yep.
I'm saying that's this is a paper chase, a mistake. It's kind of shocking it hasn't happened already, but in the grand scheme of things, who cares? A few rich people milling about for a bit and going, oh, I'm on the wrong plane. Sorry, I took your spot, is not the same thing as this guy assaulting somebody for a lame joke. And everyone
on-stage crime witnessed by billions.
Exactly. Yeah. So needless to say, again, as much as I respect Mr. Murrell, I'm thinking it's a terrible take that I may never let him live down. Not that he watches us, but.
The Chinese curse of may we live in interesting times. For all the, all the bloopers that you've ever seen, the one that they used, the one that was the sort of the most famous, or one of the most famous besides Sasheen Littlefeather, R.I.P., might have been the streaker that came on while David Niven was presenting.
Yeah, and
we have the good fortune to have lived in a 6-year interval where somebody was assaulted and the wrong movie won. And that's I think those have usurped the previous ones.
Well, and even what's interesting is Marlon Brando, his refusal of the award via Ms. What's her last name again, sir?
Sasheen
Littlefeather, Ms. Littlefeather, was looking back, it's like, oh, we all should have been. I mean, you and I were children, so we get a bye. But any of the people that booed, and there were people that booed, looking back, it's like, Marlon Brando looks ahead of the curve here. I don't think, honestly, Jim, I don't think there's any world where that'll look ahead of the curve.
No. And I should say that the Marlon Brando award presentation wasn't a blooper. It was just sort of a notorious moment. I should be a little more precise about that. But
or the Rob of another channel will be cutting that out.
Yeah.
Yeah. But no, and you're absolutely right. Those four things, the streaking, that's just fun.
Mhm.
You know, there is a guy who understood, yeah, this is all nonsense anyway. You know,
Yeah.
and I think even David Niven, it wasn't like he was like, arrest that man.
Yeah.
I think he even said, well, live show.
Something shortcoming, something. I mean, that was he was pretty cool under pressure. But
Yeah. It's smooth and, you know,
yeah.
and back in a time when everyone got really tanned before they understood the true risks of skin cancer.
Yes, that's true. That's true.
All right. Oh, let's get into the show proper. And
Sure.
what this is a year, Jim. Here, let me actually I can bring up the webpage. You and I have seen, honest to goodness, and get some of this out of the way here. I think you and I have seen like 10 we've covered, not seen, covered on our show. Come on, where are we? Best Picture. Whoopsie. 6 of the top 10.
Yes.
And even, well, okay, the foreign films, even though that's kind of our thing, or one of our things, we have not seen as many. But of these 6, and I'm calling an audible here, Jim. Of these 6, the 6 we've seen, which would be Women Talking, Top Gun Maverick, The Fablemans, Everything Everywhere All at Once, Avatar. Well, I know which one it won't be. And All Quiet on the Western Front. If you were to choose the winner out of the 6 we've covered, which would it be?
Probably EEAAO, as some of the people involved with it call it. Yeah, I would say probably that one.
Everything
Not just
Everywhere.
because and I don't think just because it got the most nominations, but it felt pretty fresh in a lot of ways. It obviously appealed to a lot of people.
Well, I'm wondering what you would pick.
I would probably pick that one. Yeah. I don't think there's I think there is a wrong answer, but that's not it. I mean, if you chose Women Talking, that wouldn't be wrong, or EEAO.
And there's still 4 movies.
Yeah.
You know, that we can that we can cover before the Oscars happen. So I'll be excited to dig into that. What about now? Here it's a little tougher, and it's interesting. All Quiet on the Western Front was nominated both for a Best Picture and, I believe, an international feature film. But we've seen none of the others.
Yeah.
What of
I know? Argentina in 1985 was sort of the next on my list. But anyway, go ahead.
No. Myself, I want to see EO.
Yes.
But who knows? Maybe, given that we don't have as many to see on the big picture side for Best Picture, maybe we can get all 4 on each list covered before that time. Getting off the list for a sec here. What is there any, based on these nominations, is there any film you think you might want to rewatch, or maybe it's caused you to kind of go, did I just not give it the credit it deserved? Or,
I looking back at the ones that we've reviewed, I think the ones that I'd like to rewatch, I would just like to rewatch regardless of the nomination today. Like I would like Everything Everywhere All at Once is so crammed full of stuff
Yeah.
I don't think it would be a thrown away 2 hours if you did watch it again within, a few months of seeing it the first time. All Quiet on the Western Front, we watched it sort of around Remembrance Day as sort of a nod to that, and that was only a few months ago. I could give that a rewatch. The others, well, we just watched Women Talking on Friday, so that might be a bit, a lot of
Little.
dark barn work. I might give that a rest for a while. But
Yeah.
and the others were sort of big blockbuster entertainments. Yeah, I don't need to see those again, but I would
Yep.
say probably Everything Everywhere all at once. I might take another look at before the Oscars roll around. So
When we look at that list, that best picture list, was there any on there or were there any surprises on that list for you?
Yeah, I was surprised that Nope didn't make it, but they didn't. I suspect that there's a reason for that, whether or not they campaigned well for being included or not. They didn't have, I don't think, any representation in the Golden Globes, which is a bit of a barometer. There was some noise
Yeah.
about decision to leave, and
Mhm.
if at any point in terms of momentum, if they were going to give an Indian film any kind of first best picture love, it probably would have been RRR. So
Yeah.
they threw it a bone and nominated for best song, going up against Rihanna and Lady Gaga. So good luck with that. But that was a little bit disappointing. It would have been nice to see some of that kind of variety in the list, but
Yeah.
maybe they need to have 15 best pictures. No, I'm just kidding. But yeah. I mean, I don't want to get all sour or anything, but you can't tell me that Avatar is a better picture than Nope. If you sort of compare, start doing the comparison work. So
Yeah.
but it's a blockbuster, and it had the sort of the power of the marketplace, I think.
Oh yeah.
And
But I mean, and these questions aren't so much did it make sense?
yeah,
More the imagine we were in charge.
yeah.
I can certainly see why Nope, a summer release,
Yes, yeah.
you know, a summer release and a genre release. It is a horror,
Yeah.
a horror with something to say.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
a horror, well, any good horror has something to say. I shouldn't
Yeah. No, that's a good point.
be so dismissive of a genre.
Boy, the horror community is angry on Twitter today, though.
I would say that when you talk about, well, Nope, there's a couple of others, but Nope certainly stands out. For me, Jim, it was as much Nope and Avatar as my kind of. I knew it was going to
Yeah.
get a lot, but wow, best picture, really?
Yeah.
Another one, a surprise, and it was interesting. And this is now, I know I kind of ran down Dan Merle earlier. Now I want to praise him. You had talked about when we did our review of our spoiler-free review, link somewhere around, of Women Talking. You had praised its cinematography. It did not make it. That didn't bother me as much. But one of the things he was, Merle said is like, how could you not have Maverick, Top Gun Maverick? It's got to be one of the best action films of the last few years. Like in that rarefied air, all that stuff is, as we know, he is a stickler. He's like the Nolan, the Chris Nolan of actors, that it is not on this list, whereas, I mean, Elvis, okay, sure,
Yeah.
We made a fancy concert movie with, how did one commentator put it? Baz Luhrmann sprinkles, but that's, versus that's, I'm with Merle on that one. That's like, wow, that's maybe not a snub, but not exactly a, kind of a missed opportunity there. What do you think? Does that make sense to you?
Yeah.
Yeah. Now I'm doing what I
Yeah.
don't like. What do you think? Does it make sense to you?
Yeah, I mean, there's always some that are underwhelming or things that just, frankly, it can be pretty objective. I'm not particularly interested in the Elvis, a reworking of the Elvis story, for instance. I'll probably get around to watching it, but
It is a Best Picture nominee.
it is, yeah,
Ugh.
and Baz Luhrmann is sort of watchable at the very least. I mean, I haven't loved everything he's done, but I can appreciate that he's got a thing. Like
Yeah.
he's got an approach that's different from other directors, and that's
he's
not a bad
an
thing.
auteur in that dictionary sense. You can say that's a Baz Luhrmann picture.
Yeah, but and there's always things that are going to appeal to you and me differently. There's we like science fiction, we like history movies, so I
the genre, or let's say that slice of life in a biopic. But it's funny, and okay, you know what? It's tough to, as we haven't seen Elvis, so this maybe after we see it, we go, oh, that's why it was picked. This all makes sense. Myself, though, I always approach biopics, whether they be for it's just with a lot of skepticism. They especially pop star biopics. They're so controlled by their representative states or the band around them. It's almost always like, am I about to see an hour and a half, 2 hour advertorial for the music, with a narrative that is the same. It's almost a cookie cutter, struggling artist, hardship, discovered, initial fame, a trough of some sort, and then a great reinvention. Rising, is he destroyed? And then he rises like a phoenix, and they all seem to have those beats where it's like, am I actually watching a biography am I watching a biography, or am I watching a template and they just put in, what artist are we doing? Oh, okay, well, we better make sure we shoot in Tennessee.
Yeah.
Or that it looks like Tennessee. Again, we're now talking about a movie neither of us seen.
Yeah, I mean, I've read a few things about it. A number of reviewers call it sort of an Instagram story of Elvis and that kind of thing. But we'll get around to watching it. I mean, Austin Butler was kind of fun and game on Saturday Night Live. I was sort of not looking forward to him hosting, and he impressed me there. So we'll see. Yeah. It wasn't first on my list, and it still isn't. Like, there's a number of other ones. Interestingly, I should mention that
EO?
The Banshees of my wife and I snuck in the Banshees of Inisherin independent of this show a while ago. But one of the foreign movies, I think the one called Close, is about the dissolution of a childhood friendship, as opposed to Banshees of Inisherin, which is
this is an opportunity to do a twofer back to back.
Exactly. Yeah. I think they're probably a little different, but it's kind of a similar, interestingly similar subject.
Same basic premise.
Speaking of best sound, I'm not muted. Did I ask that?
You are not muted. I did.
How's that for a segue, though?
Yeah, it is.
Pretty good.
Relevant, on topic.
Yes.
I believe that deserves another One more.
Yay.
What about, like, what is the next one? Like, we've got, it looks like we've got, let's say, 8 movies to cover, or potentially to cover, between now and Oscars night, which is,
Yeah, I was like, I gotta look this up.
oh no, I've got it. Oh, Jim, I have it right here. Look at that. The
there we
95th
go.
Academy Awards, 2023, Dolby Theater at Ovation Hollywood. Sunday. Wait a second. Here.
Sure.
Whoopsie, did not want to do that. Sunday. Anyway, March 12th.
Months? Oh, is it March? Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Well, that's
yeah,
good. Yeah,
we
because
got-
I think I remember one year it was on that February 29th. The one, it was on a leap year. It was on the extra day. So that was kind of cool. But yeah, they'd been going for late February. So that, it gives us a little extra time.
Yeah.
Maybe not, 7 weeks. I
Actually,
guess.
let
So,
me
yeah.
ask you this. Okay, so potentially 8 films. Probably don't have time to see them all. What's the movie, if you're to pick one movie from each list where it's like, if we never saw that, my life would not be worse.
Yeah.
Between now and then, what would it be? Let's start with best for international feature. Here,
International
let's get it back
feature.
up on the screen. So the nominees are All Quiet on the Western Front. We've seen that. Argentina 1985, Close, EO, and The Quiet Girl. What do you
just
ditch?
offhand, yeah, I'd like to see Argentina in 1985. It's I think
Not
it's,
the question. What do you ditch?
Yeah. Oh, what do you ditch? What do you not
What
watch?
do you ditch? What do you not watch?
Maybe Close, because I'd like to watch EO, and Ireland is actually having a pretty good year Oscar wise, so maybe that would be worth a watch. And it's interesting because it's an Irish movie, but I think it's not in English. It may be in
Gaelic, in
Gaelic,
Celtic,
yeah,
Irish,
because they used to call it best. What was it?
foreign
non-English?
language film.
Foreign language, yes.
Yeah.
Sorry. Yeah. So that's kind of interesting there. But yeah, because I'd like to see EO. I'd like to watch Argentina. So the question is either Close or The Quiet Girl. So maybe Close.
I'm with you on that one. I think I ditch if we can't get them all in. I think Close would be the one I ditch. Notwithstanding my let's do a twofer.
Yeah.
All right, before we go to Best Picture, let me ask you this, Jim. There were other nominations.
Yeah.
A lot of actors, actresses, myself, screenplays. Sarah Polley did get a couple of nominations, or her film did. She only got a mere one.
Screenplay.
Best adapted screenplay. Yeah.
Adapted. Yes, of course.
Was there any shockers for the other, like best actress or best actor, supporting actor?
Yeah, I think actually kind of the opposite. I think I was nicely surprised by, especially even as a kid, I always liked the supporting actor categories, both of them, actor and actress as they insist on calling it. I always liked those the most. I always thought that was sort of the more interesting. Yeah, because I always sort of, if I identified with a character, it tended to be a supporting character.
No, I get that. Yeah.
Rather than best, the focal. So yeah, and there was a lot of, interesting names, a lot of first timers, a lot of veteran first timers, a lot of, I think all 5 actors are first time nominees. Most of the actresses, except for Cate Blanchett, who's sort of this era's Hepburn, perhaps. She's been
Yeah.
nominated a truckload of times. No complaints there, but and a lot of sort of in the supporting characters. Well, two movies each have four actors, which is Everything Everywhere All at Once and Banshees of Inisherin. Both have four actors in out of the 20, so that's something else. Yeah, kind of exciting actually. Yeah, to see people get acknowledged. Bill Nye, 73. I think this is his first. Yeah, so a lot of Irish too. Paul Mescal, if anybody's watched Common People, what is it, Ordinary People, the sort of the naughty series that they out of Ireland that they did based on the novel there. So yeah, lots of Colin Farrell, lots of interesting things going on. People we've watched for a while that haven't necessarily been recognized like this. So that I find that genuinely kind of exciting.
What did you think of? There's some interesting backstories to like campaigning and that. What did you think of? And I'm not going to go to Andrea Riseborough here. I actually think I doubt it was her real motivation, but suddenly I'm like, I may need to check out this To Leslie when it comes out on streaming, But Ana de Armas getting nominated for a film that was for Blonde and a rather controversial portrayal of Marilyn Monroe. And that's certainly not on her. She was the hired gun. What do you think's going on there? Is it like just the component that gets to, that first massaging, that first vetting, the creation of the short list? Was it just the people going, actors going, you know what, the movie deserved the death it got the death it so richly deserved, but she Shatnered the hell out of that.
Yeah. I didn't watch it, and I can tell you my wife is a big Marilyn fan, always has been since I met her. She's very protective of Marilyn, and so anytime anybody tries to do one of these things, she's always like, oh, but she watched it. She gave it a look, gave it a chance, and she said Ana de Armas is very good. The movie's horrible, but the actress is very good. So maybe it was kind of something like that across the board. Is that the director is one kind of artist and the actor is another kind of artist, and they're not necessarily. You can have different opinions of the skill of each in any given movie, I think. It's so she approved of the performance, said she's very good, but the movie overall is just pretty misogynist and that kind of thing. So
it's one of those things. I avoided it in part because of the reports of the misogyny, like what the clips I did see and some of the stuff I read about it and of course you and I, we do have access to some of the press stuff from Netflix, and looking at some of that, and it's like, we don't need that on our list. I don't need that imagery rolling around in my brain. It doesn't seem to have value. At times you kind of go, is this like the biopic version of, have we done something that the estate's going, hey, we got some more merch we need to sell. We need to maintain her cultural cachet, and so
Megan Fox got rid of her Maryland tattoos, so we got to step it up, again. Or
exactly.
And a lot of these projects too, like this one is kind of, this is a tiny bit of a tangent, but you look at a person and ultimately it brings you to their end story. It's like every time I look at JFK, I think about the assassination. Every time I look at Marilyn, I think about, her downfall. They had lives that weren't inevitable. They had lives before that, and it wouldn't it be nice? And they have done it before. I think Michelle Williams was in one where they take a look at a little section of the life and, take a look at that, as opposed to that, what you're talking about, the big biography that sort
Yeah.
of checks a lot of boxes. I find the pictures that concentrate on a more limited time span as being more sort of satisfying anyway.
There was another, if memory serves, wasn't there another Marilyn Monroe one that did zero in on a period of her?
My Life with Marilyn or
I
something.
believe that was it. Yeah.
When she was shooting the movie with Laurence Olivier, I think that was what the focus was of that one. So, yeah.
And I think there it was a little more, a little better reviewed. A lot better reviewed, actually.
Yeah.
I mean, got one picture is at the bottom. All right. Jim, one more question before we actually, you know what? Never mind one more question. Why don't you tell us, Jim, why don't you tell us what we're going to be watching this Sunday? Because this video will be out before Sunday, I guess it'd be the 20-something or other.
I don't know. It was 29th, I think.
29th.
The 5th Sunday in November, or in January. November. What am I talking about? We are going to be watching the not nominated Narvik. We didn't know that beforehand, folks, so it's not our fault. But just sort of in our great history with foreign war movies, we're going to be taking a look at the Norwegian flick Narvik. And I'm looking forward to it, actually.
Yeah. There's something to be said. We've watched some heavy or some or some frightening, or be interesting to see something that's a little more, I mean, it'll have its problems, but
yeah.
I'm sick of being challenged, Jim. I want an easy 2 hours to just kind of let my brain turn off.
Just get some Aquavit and some of those papery crackers, and we'll be set. They don't eat popcorn; they just eat those water crackers. And true fact.
All right, let's go back to what the last question I've got for you.
Sure.
And let me pull up the list one more time. So we got in there, in best picture. We have seen 6. We've seen All Quiet on the Western Front. We've seen Avatar. You've seen The Banshees of Inisherin. I haven't. So there's really only 3 here. Elvis. We've seen Everything Everywhere at Once. Fabelmans. We haven't seen Tar. We've seen Top Gun. Haven't seen Triangle of Silence. Of the which one would you skip? Or let's say for our folks, which one? Or are we kind of stuck watching the rest? Stuck. Like it's some terrible chore watching movies and then talking about them.
Well, I'd skip Avatar. No, I'm just kidding. What would you skip? Elvis sort of doesn't really intrigue me. I might, in terms of if we had all kinds of time, watch them all, of course. But probably Elvis intrigues me the least. Triangle of Sadness, I suspect, is low-hanging fruit, but it might be worth watching. Probably
Tough
Elvis.
one, eh?
I ditch. Yeah.
Myself, I'm with you. Only because we can't go back in time and say, we could skip Avatar. Lots of time to see that bullshit later. And yes, I will put a review, or I'll put actually, we got a couple of takes. I do though, Jim, and maybe we do it, maybe this is something we can get in before, is I think Avatar is worth a deep dive on elaborating the problems, let's say the problems this film does have, whether it be thematic or storytelling, like and who knows, maybe that means a rewatch and maybe we didn't give this movie the credit it deserved. I don't think we're going to come into that, but I do think it may be worth our time, if not before, sometime in the next few months, to do a deep dive on Avatar, because it's this movie is not good. And the praise it's getting, it does not deserve. But I think for a lot of folks out there, where you kind of get, the critics say it's good, or it got nominated for a Best Picture, it got, it's like, do you not remember? This is the same ding-dongs that think that's okay.
Yeah.
Let's not give these people too much credit now.
Yeah. I mean, I certainly think we're in the minority, or
at least right now
we're in the minority. Yeah. Some indigenous folks are also sort of speaking up and saying, the portrayals here are not great, but yeah, it might.
It's
what
still
might
about
be
a white man leading them, no matter how much he's culturally appropriated a body,
and Australian even, but it's basically Crocodile Dundee, isn't it? No, but yeah, it might be even interesting to look at it post Oscar, because it may go all the way. I don't think it will, but you never know how. Might be one of those ones that they throw all the technical awards at, but
all right,
we'll have to see.
Okay, well, on that note, I think we're about done here, folks. Somewhere this way I'll put a playlist of the videos Jim and I have where we've covered any of the films that have been nominated. And then, of course, there'll be something probably down there where YouTube says, hey, watch this. Alrighty. Say goodnight, Jim.
Good night, Jim.